Hello, everybody. Thank you once again for joining us here at the Bard Inn, episode number 4, on this very special full moon solstice and also International Franz Barden Day weekend. And so, once again, a great pleasure to have you with us. I've got another wonderful lineup of guests and some questions and topics here. Of course, we encourage audience questions. If you can put those into the live chat on YouTube. I will also be checking the Franz Barden Discord server throughout as well. And I've put some posts in the casual and FB multimedia server areas that you can reply to with your questions. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on a new guest to the Bard Inn. It's my great pleasure to introduce a well-known figure in the Bard Inn commentary community. And yeah, definitely someone I really enjoy watching the videos of and the posts. So I'd like to bring to the stage. Oh, hang on, Clint. I just need to change that. Mr. Clint Sabom. Hello, Clint. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. It's fantastic to be here on this special occasion with you, and glad to be a part of it.
Well, you create so much wonderful content. I can see you're getting a little busier on YouTube as well, and you know, I'm just grateful for this wonderful spread of teachers and content creators in this wonderful community, and you're certainly a notable one. So to have you today here is a real pleasure, and I'm so grateful. But what I like to do is that when we bring the guests in, I just like to ask, what have you been up to? What's going on?
Well, what's going on is, I kind of do most of my publicity on my YouTube page at The Graveyard Cowboy, or you can just look me up, Clint Sabom, on YouTube. And, I do videos there, usually release once a week on Fridays. And then I also do individual coaching. I have individual clients that I basically coach, usually helping them through the steps, answering any questions they may have, giving them a safe space to process things. And, what I've realized in the process of doing individual sessions is a lot of people have life issues. Obviously, the world and life, on the terms that it is, can certainly get in the way of Barden work in many ways. So sometimes, we take a realm that's, closer to something like psychotherapy as well, because, I am trained in mental health counseling. So, that is certainly important stuff too, and kind of mirrors what I would call, or what Barden calls, the soul level of training. The psyche is kind of in there. And then with my group transmissions, I usually gather people once every 2 weeks on Saturdays. And basically, I do a 30-minute transmission of the Akasha, or God, divine providence, whatever word you want to use. And it's a transmission that people have said they felt very strongly, even over the Zoom platform. So, and then afterwards, we have about 30 minutes of discussion with other Barden practitioners. And those have been getting some very good feedback. And, those are much cheaper than my individual sessions too. And so I've been doing that. I've got some online classes at PerseusArcaneAcademy.com. Just came out with one on emotional release, kind of following partly the Sedona method, which is a system of emotional release. And I have another class on steps 4, 5, and 6. And that's exclusive content. It can't be found on my YouTube page or podcast or anything else. I also do the Franz Barden podcast. But I'd probably say my main thing is my YouTube page. So that's what I've been doing. And I'm kind of an initiation into Hermetic specialist. I I kind of haven't really moved on to the second and third books. Although I've read them, I kind of feel almost like initiation into Hermetics is complete to give me the power, anything I need to do. And I feel like it's a lifetime path. It's never ending, you know, it's not like you check off boxes and then you're done, you know, like for me, it's a blueprint for life as well as the cosmos.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, I really love what you said there at the end, especially with that. You know, I mean, there's milestones of attainment, you know, throughout the book as you work through the material, but I can see how some of this becomes, these are forever practices for some, in some ways. We carry on doing them. You know, even that very first exercise, that's a treasure, man. You know, I really enjoy that. And but yeah, you know, your content's great, Clint. And you know, you know, your new website looks incredible too. So I'll pull that up towards the end when we say haere everyone, which is Māori for goodbye. And we'll definitely have a look at that. So thank you, sir. And yeah, awesome to have you here, Clint. So once again, a real pleasure. Right, I'm going to bring in Mr. Hang on, where are we? I'm going to pull that down. Oh, and I'm going to bring up Mr. Philip Harris Smith. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm having a particularly good Saturday at the moment, and I'm really pleased that this is running on the solstice and the full moon. That's just such a nice, it's just such a nice coincidence to be doing this. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for inviting me here again. In terms of what I've been up to, I've been some good while ago, before I got back into Bardon, I was exploring the 30 Enochian airs or aethers that were received by John Dee and Edward Kelly during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I in England. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm planning to start a course at Perseus where I help people to enter those airs, and they can receive from, because I've done them before and I'm actually redoing them now, I can give them some clear guidance on the kind of challenges each air will present to them and what they need to do to more effectively benefit from the ordeals and initiations that each air will offer. And this is all the Enochian angels, so it's all a very angelic kind of activity, and these subtle regions are to do with the Enochian angels and Enochian magic. So that's what I've been working on. I've been doing the earlier. I started about 2 or 3 weeks ago, just redoing the earlier aethers from 30 upwards. They go in reverse order from 30 to the first, and I'm going to be delivering a course for people who feel that would be of benefit. And the reason it might be of benefit is because it can dovetail very well with Bardon's training. For example, I think in Bardon's third book, he describes this notion that progress can, even if the student is working really hard and, you know, really putting hours a day in, really pushing ahead. Bardon writes that this notion of karma can influence how well you progress. And of course, that's not something you really necessarily know a lot about, especially in the earlier stages when you may not know anything about whatever you got up to before you walk the earth again. So the thing with these aethers is you can process some of that material, and you can do it within the subtle region that the aether itself. You can process that baggage, if you like, and this might have a knock-on effect and improve the Bardon training. Apart from the experiences in the airs, interacting with the governors and the angels is in itself quite a strong experience for most people that do it. So that's what I've been mainly focusing on in the last few weeks, and hopefully within a month or two I'll have it up and running. So.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And yeah, it's a common conversation I hear about how this framework in initiation into Hermetics is so wonderfully complementary to other systems for filling out gaps. I found this in my own exploration of energy healing. And for now, I'm sort of orbiting the system of Reiki, which has got lots of compound teachings, which there's not a lot of understanding about. But when you go through the initiation into Hermetics framework, you can basically, it's a difference between working individual muscles versus working muscle groups. In my view, there's a breakdown, but you have this this framework which essentially builds out a very robust vehicle for other systems, whereas maybe some systems, they don't have a focus on this kind of even building of the three bodies as a chassis essentially to do other work. So when I hear all these other teachers, because a lot of Barden teachers that I know are also teaching other systems as well, and there doesn't seem to be any conflict really between the teachings. They're just very complementary. It's wonderful because it's essentially it's raising the tide with other systems, or raising the bar, because it's giving a width of and depth of understanding that maybe wasn't present before. And I'm also I'm going through the process of creating a course for the wonderful people at Perseus too, on an area of interest for myself. And so these are very exciting times. Thank you so much for that, Philip. I'm going to bring in.
My dog just needs to go out. I'll be right back.
No worries.
Sorry.
No, that's all good. It's all organic, and she'll be right here on the Barden. So I'm going to bring in the lovely Miss Victoria Amadea. Hello, Victoria. Welcome. Thank you for joining us again.
It's a pleasure. It's always a joy to be on the Barden.
And always a pleasure to have you. And you and I are certainly quite busy at the moment. And I'd love to hear from you're doing so much this weekend and making videos and your usual content as well. Would you like to give us an update about what's been going on?
Yeah, I guess a general overview. Phil and I are also working on coordinating the International Franz Barden Day celebration tomorrow. So that's going to include a live stream of the St. John's evocation. Then we have several Bardenists from around the world who are going to share commentary, thoughts, feedback about Franz Barden, his life, his system. I'm really excited because this is going to be the first time that it's live streamed and recorded. This celebration has happened in prior years. I've joined them remotely when it's been hosted by a group in Canada. So I'm very grateful to Richard, might butcher his last name, Shishuldi, who declared Franz Barden Day 20 years ago this year. And personally, I've been busy with kind of my day life, my work career. Also working on magical kind of content. I've been uploading videos to Psyche Alchemica, primarily on YouTube. I also have kind of percolating in the background a gathering of more alignment with creating magical content, whether it's courses in the future. I know I have a bookmark that I need to write a magic-oriented book at some point. Whether it's in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I don't know, but I just know it's something I need to do. And that's what I've been kind of busy with. Sometimes I'll get private messages where I mentor people, just kind of if they have questions or they're asking advice about different courses on Perseus Academy to check out. And that's what I've been primarily up to.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Yes. You posted a wonderful video recently of some recalling some adventures in mental wandering. And I know, these kinds of things generally get shared quite sparingly for a number of reasons. But I was really grateful for it because, mental wandering and exploring sort of consciously other realms is a very interesting sort of avenue that I like to explore. To hear other people's adventures, it can be quite stimulating for others who are looking forward to having experiences and exploring and that. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your other content. And also what we're working on at the moment too. Like, we've been working in the background, and I tell you what, you are an absolute machine when it comes to organizing stuff. You're an absolute pleasure to work with. And I think we think the same too. I think we both like spreadsheet kind of thinking.
And organizing and outlines and detail.
Yeah. So these things we're kind of building in conjunction with each other will probably serve well for other things in the future as well. So it's a real pleasure and honor to be working with you on these things. Thank you. Cool. Well, we've got our full spread of wonderful guests here today. Unfortunately, we have to do an apology for Mr. Bob Smith. Something's come up and he won't be joining us today unless he sort of just drops in at the last minute, which would be fine too. And here's a comment from the thing. Love that mental monitoring video. Yes. Awesome. And I have another one here. Jake from Mystery College. Oh, thank you, Jake. That's very, very kind of you. I appreciate the encouragement. I can reinvest that back into the channel. We've actually got some new toys to play with. If you haven't noticed, we've got the logo up the top right of the screen, a bit of a background here, thanks to the very generous sponsorship of Psyche Alchemica in the audience here. So in the guest panel, thank you, Victoria, for setting that up. So now I've got here. First of all, I want to say a big welcome to the audience. I've already kind of dropped it, but appreciate everyone watching and participating. And if you have a question for the panel, please put it into the YouTube chat here. If you are not on YouTube, but you're on the Discord server, I will check that towards the end of the session. Is that Zool? It wouldn't be barred in without Zool. That's the pub's mascot.
She was licking her hind quarters, so this was not acceptable.
Bless her.
Sit down, come on, darling, sit down.
Bless you.
Dogs being dogs, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, that's right. Wouldn't be the same. All right.
Sorry.
Okay. No. That's. I love it. I think it's very personable. So this is the solstice weekend. So here I am in New Zealand. I'm down underneath, and it's pretty dark. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm wondering if it's time for me to put my dressing gown on and make a cup of tea before I go to bed, sort of thing. Like, it gets pretty dark, you know. So it's definitely getting cooler. It's usually August when it gets really cold. But one thing that I found is essentially reliable as far as the visibility of celestial bodies is that you can pretty much bank on the sun rising every day. It plays a big part in so much of what goes on this planet, and obviously the physical sphere that we can observe visibly in the sky, the relationship to it as a sphere of exploration through magical systems is another topic. But what I wanted to just start with here is, and I would love, I've referred specifically to the solstice and the solstices in the question, but if anyone in the panel, and I'll start with Clint for this one, but I just wanted to say, look, if you've got any other related information about the sun, whether physically or more in an astral, mental, and upwards way, I'd love to hear your commentary about the sun and the solstices and anything that you think is relevant, pertinent, interesting, related to Barden work or elseways. So, Clint, you're our new guest. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass this on to you. Have you found benefit in exploring the solstices?
Well, I think solstices are always beneficial things. I haven't done any personal rituals this year on the solstice. It's certainly, the solstices and the equinoxes both are things that I mark. I'm here in the United States of America, so it's the summer solstice for us. I have noticed a kind of peak of energy, kind of like the same peak that comes from full moons. Obviously, it's staying light outside a lot longer, as happens. I haven't, noticed a whole lot different than the sun, either physically or astrally, though I haven't really been paying attention, to be honest. But, there is a bit of a peakness coming, and a peakness in the energy arising. And sometimes I almost wonder if that's something to both love and fear, like during full moons, admissions to psych wards increased, so during summer solstices, I wonder, if there's somehow an increase in 911 calls, or on the other side, a decrease, So I think it certainly affects all of us, whether we know it's going on and pay attention to it or not. It's definitely something that affects the entire world's energy, and hopefully for the better. I'm glad to be a part of these events. They almost feel like a kind of benediction and a prayer from me too, to get through this solstice and in line with divinity.
Yeah, wonderful. You're right. I must say I struggle to deny the effects of these significant moments in the travel of the sun's calendar, travel of the sun on the calendar. For myself, I found that when I look back in my life prior to sort of meditation and these exploring these esoteric topics, I would find that I would be making large life decisions around this particular time of the year. And that's included, I've shifted to another location in New Zealand a couple of other times, and it's been around June, July, generally the end of June. And I find that quite curious. Now, Victoria, have you got something you'd like to share on this topic?
Yeah, I'll start on the tails of what you just said about the summer solstice usually being a time of transition. A few years ago, I had a dream about my now dog 3 days before the summer solstice. And then on the summer solstice, I saw her posted at a rescue, and she's just been a wonderful guardian. A spirit from the zone girdling the earth said they sent her to me. Then also this year during the summer solstice, I'm kind of having a bunch of kind of transition pivots in my life as well, to kind of change trajectory. So as the solstice, at least in the summer solstice, Phil, I know you're celebrating the winter solstice right now. There's also the more opening of light. So I don't know how much I can even articulate or know, but I'm very fascinated about the universe kind of being a clockwork, and you have several wheels that are fulfilling different things. Like it was mentioned, the full moon, and it affects people. So we have the waning and waxing of the moon. We have the solstices and the equinoxes. We have stories of avatars born to virgin mothers who resurrect after 3 days. So we have these kind of phenomenons within the solar system that are representative of something kind of bigger going on behind the scenes. And even like with the Stonehenge and other ancient people, there were monuments built to honor these equinoxes. Our ancestors had a sense of reverence, and I think they were also more in tune with nature then. They didn't have all the buildings and the concrete and the electricity flying around. They didn't have light pollution, so they could more readily observe the cosmic movements and track them and be aware of what is happening within the universe. For benefits of exploring the summer solstice, I had been told once that the winter and summer solstice are great times to go into deep, deep meditation. So now you can kind of maybe muse about metaphysically what it is about there being more light, the height of light being available on Earth, or the contraction to where it's being diminished. Like, what are the values of your own spirit, your own soul, kind of penetrating into that, sitting with it, and if there's anything that you kind of want to contemplate. And they're kind of like gates of energy that are happening within time. So I don't actively do anything during these gates that I'm cognizant of, but you can also consider during these gates, whether it's the solstices or the equinox, what kind of energy do I want to be tuning into or opening or closing during these markers of the equinoxes and solstices?
Wonderful, thank you. And yeah, great to bring up the very conversation of monuments and these megalithic, monolithic calendars. And I know that to simplify some of these great structures down to that sort of simple thing is there's a lot more that maybe goes on in those things. But essentially, you're right. I mean, like when I sit on my balcony in the morning, it faces east, I can see the sunrise, and there's a big tree, like a big tall tree. And on the equinox, it rises either left or right of that tree. So, I've got these marker points. And, obviously as the sun moves through its journey, through its cycle, this time of the year, it's rising in the north. It's a very shallow arc. And there is more light, obviously, at your side. So, these are great. And emergency rooms, we know that, police also put more people on during the time of the full moon. So it's kind of, it's a real thing that there is a direct effect. And the sun obviously is a great initiator of certain types of causes for all sorts of things that happen here on the planet. So thank you. Wonderful. Now, Mr. Philip Harris Smith, surely there must be something that can be said.
I'm afraid there is. The thing with the solstices is the sun and the earth are in line with a particular point. Because our Earth's orbit isn't a perfect circle, you get two foci, 2 points, and our planet would orbit the same no matter which one the sun was in. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, tell me. Anyway, basically, what springs to mind is a certain phrase from Regardie's Golden Dawn ritual. The invisible sun is the dispenser of light to this earth. Let me therefore form a vortex in this chamber, that the invisible sun of the spirit may shine therein from above. And that is the point where our physical sun isn't. It's the other one. Any ellipse has 2 dots, two centers. So at the winter and summer solstice, they're all in line with each other. And so you've got the sun, the place where the sun could be but isn't, and the earth, and they're all in line. Give me 5 seconds, I'll show you what I mean. I've forgotten about this. I wrote this for an article for Perseus. So is it upside down? Yeah, it is. So basically, it's a bit of a useless diagram, really, sorry. But as you can see, I wrote this for the winter solstice. And here, the sun is between this other spot and the earth, so it blocks it. But at the summer solstice, the sun is behind this invisible point, and they're all in line. So in my view, the spiritual energies are shining on us, and the sun is directly behind those spiritual energies. So it's almost as if the spiritual energies have this solar energy in it as well. And what's even better about this year is you've got the gold and the silver. You've got the full moon as well. And it doesn't, I don't think you necessarily have to do any kind of ritual or religious observance. You can just kind of soak it in. You know what I mean? But that's the significance. It's any ellipse has 2 focal points. Our sun could be at either of those, and our Earth would have the same orbit. So the other point, the empty point, is what the Golden Dawn, for example, called the invisible spiritual sun. There's nothing you could see if you put a telescope to that spot. You could just off the sun itself. But it's where, as I say, that the sun could be, and if it were, we'd have the same orbit around it. And they're all in line. At the summer and winter solstice, they're all in line. So at the summer solstice, the sun, if I remember correctly, is behind this empty spot, the second foci of the ellipse. And the sun, the invisible sun, and the earth are all in directly in line with each other. And that's a really nice, both the summer and the winter solstice for different reasons. It's a really nice point in our solar cycle, and you can just literally sort of soak up the ambience of it. I mean, certainly if people want to do a specific religious observance or celebration, that they can. But it's not necessary. You can just kind of enjoy it, and and understanding the significance of that helps the appreciation. I would suggest that it is a conjunction of the corporeal sun, the spiritual sun, and the earth. It's a nice time. Yeah, so that would be what I would put forward. I can't hear you, man.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. So we're at these 2 points in the year, the winter and the summer solstice, where there is a peak and a diminishment of a certain energetic expression, and it's quite tangible at this time of the year. Whereas as an equinox is much more, I guess, balanced. Whereas contrast is a wonderful tool in the kit for hermeticists, and being acutely aware of environmental, if we call it that, changes. Like when we have our Christmas/summer solstice at the in December, and it's funny now that I'm connected with a lot of international people, and just to see how the societal fluctuations and just composure and demeanor of people change at different points of the year, and also this idea that at the top of the roller coaster, there's a moment where there's almost like a weightlessness at the end of the pendulum swing before it comes back down again. Just like the sumo guy, he's checking his balance, he's finding that fulcrum point before it sort of tips and falls, that moment in between the breaths. That's kind of one sort of way I analogize this time of the year is that, the sun, as Victoria said, there's these stories from history about the sun disappearing for 3 days, and then rising again from the tomb, and these types of things. And so, the sun has hit pretty much at the low point here in New Zealand, and now it's rising up, but it hits that staying point. So wonderful responses. Thank you, everyone. Now, we do have a question here from the audience, which I'm going to put up, and it's in regards to Victoria's mental wandering video. Victoria mentioned that we can explore the planets / tree of life in our solar system and more complex ones. I'm presuming that's referring to the mental wandering. Can we incarnate into these systems after this life, visit them within this life, or both? So I'll just pass this to Victoria as a starting point, if she can translate that.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Ryan. So I'm going to share my perspective. Other people might have different opinions, but I just want to share what I personally feel about this, my own gnosis on it. So when it comes to incarnating in these systems in this life, first we want to look at like our current solar system. So I'd mentioned in that video that before incarnation, your spirit may have spent time on planets, residing on planets, in addition to the astral realm or the zone girdling the earth. So within the Barden canon, after you pass away, based on your development, the energies around you, your karma, your spirit will eventually go to a domain that more closely resonates with it. Unless there's kind of behind the scenes administration by Providence that says, no, you need to go here. Say you've been a soldier and you resonate in war. Someone might think, oh, they're going to go to Mars, or maybe their life karma would have them somewhere on the astral plane or in the zone girdling the earth. But maybe, depending on the program, okay, maybe you were meant to be in that energy at that time, but then the program is to go to a different energy. So as you go through lifetime after lifetime, I believe in reincarnation, that these systems, first, when you are not incarnated, you're not dealing with time. So you might be not exclusively in one sphere in between incarnations. You may spend time going to different spheres in between incarnations. But when you also think that your spirit is eternal, it gives you a larger parameter of understanding, okay, you may have been around 60 billion years, you don't know that, or 5 billion years, or 5 million years. And when it comes to visiting them within this life, it will depend on your magical development, your magical history. Kind of within the Barden system, it's generally said each life that you work on yourself, whether it's esoterically, magically speaking, general inner development, that begins to snowball and carry with you lifetime to lifetime. So yes, you can do that within this life, but it also depends on if in this life your development is at that level where you can visit these other spheres. And for the more complex ones, that's, I believe, referring to extrasolar. So there's several spirits who come to the solar system from outside of the solar system we live in. And again, when you kind of step outside of time, they could have come here 3 million years ago, 3,000 years ago, whatever. And depending on your duration within the solar system, whether it's in 500 years or 50,000 years, you can leave the solar system and explore other systems as well. And I'm not sure, did I miss anything else? So yes, you can incarnate into these systems after this life, but it's good. There's a lot more kind of details, I think, to take into consideration on where you're actually going to end up, but to kind of step back and appreciate, well, there's this huge picture, kind of like this background here. You could spend 20 years on this little leaf, you can spend 60,000 years on one of these stars, but when you're eternal, time is just a container that your spirit is operating through in physical creation. I think that's it.
No, wonderful. Thank you for that. Clint or Philip, would you guys like to comment on this at all?
Sure. Yeah, I'm pretty much in line with everything Victoria just said. One thing I wanted to mention, though, or to add to it is, I think that Earth is a purgatorial planet. And by that, I mean, I think that the harshness of life on this planet Earth is very extreme, compared to these other spheres and other dimensions, even compared, for instance, to the dimensions I've traveled in astrally, which were much lighter and much more full of unconditional love. And I do believe, too, in reincarnation, and I do believe there's usually a waiting period and between zone between incarnations that you could go to, and you could really be anywhere and everywhere. So many places we can't even conceive of them all. And then, of course, you would choose to reincarnate. And no, I don't think people reincarnate exclusively to the Earth dimension. But I do feel often that there is karma connecting us to the Earth dimension that usually causes, the next incarnation to also be in the Earth dimension to work out some of that karma. But yeah, I mean, other than all the beautiful things Victoria said, I'd just like to add, I think that this current dimension we're in is a very, very harsh dimension compared to the afterlife. And, it's quite a blow coming back and reincarnating sometimes. I mean, babies come out of the womb crying. That says it all. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Clint. Philip, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think Clint's observation that we're in a somewhat of a purgatorial location makes a lot of sense to me. I think I think we have a lot of opportunity to develop by virtue of that fact. And one of the things that springs to mind, particularly at the moment with the work I'm doing, is this notion that there are other dimensions where you can exist, as Victoria was identifying, but they're a lot nicer. And the test there is not to just chill out, but to actually do something instead of just chilling out because it's so nice. And there's that temptation of just enjoying life in these other places and not really progressing. And here the stuff can, I mean, obviously in a European country, generally speaking, things are a lot better than, for example, I don't know, Ethiopia. But so I understand that there are variations. But overall, I think in this world there is more opportunity to progress than perhaps in these other more favourable places. So that doesn't mean that sometimes you don't wish you weren't here. That's certainly true. I'd agree with that. And I think Victoria's identifying that there are these other realms and you can live in them is basically true. If I think that's what she said, and if that's what she said, I totally agree. And I think that when Clint says it's a bit purgatorial, yes, it is. And before you come here, I've got the feeling that before you come here, you might think, what a wonderful opportunity I have for growth. But once you're here, you perhaps at some level regret that you decided to do it, kind of thing. But anyway, I mean, very, very, very briefly, when I was 17, I was late for work. It was in the summer. I was doing a summer job at a poultry packing factory. It was, between going to college, and I had my alarm clock on snooze. So it was. I was supposed to be there at 9. It was now 10 to 9. I was going to be late. I was going to be in trouble. So I just thought, and I tapped the snooze button. So in about 5 minutes, the alarm would go off again. And in that, it's very memorable because I lived a whole life in this. You know how you go into this semi-dream state? Somehow in a semi-dream state, I lived a whole life somewhere else. And when the alarm went off, I was very regretful because I knew somehow I was coming back here and I had to go and cut the knees off chicken joints and things all day, with like rose secretaires. And it's like it wasn't actually a dream because it was a lucid dream, but it was a whole lifetime's worth of a lucid dream. So I'm sure there's lots of psychological explanations for that kind of thing, but based on that, I would suspect that you do indeed live in other realms, and it is much nicer in these other realms than it is here. But there's a reason, like I say, there's a reason why we're here. There is greater opportunity in purgatory, perhaps. Anyway, I try not to digress too much. I can't really add much more than that.
Thank you. Victoria?
I'll agree with that. When I first kind of began waking up internally, like, why the F am I here? I just want to go back home. And just this strong sense of missing home and my spiritual family there. Real quick, I wanted to read a short brief, if it's okay with you, Phil. Franz Barton, The Practice of Magical Evocation, a little blurb because it ties to what we were just talking about. So Franz Barton said, beings incarnate themselves from the astral world into the physical sphere of our planet, bordered by time and space, in order to work on their development, since the material laws of this plane put far more hindrance in front of every individual than is the case on the astral plane. The impediments of the physical world strengthen the spirit and enable it to grow more rapidly in its development than it would be possible under the astral world. Therefore, the human beings of the astral world are urged to achieve reincarnation in this world as soon as possible and are ready to accept even the toughest conditions in order to be able to continue their spiritual development. Every man can reach perfection, for the evolution of the whole of mankind leads towards it.
Lovely. And absolutely perfect for the conversation. Yes, I from what I understand too, you can get some good gains here in the hard place. There's good bang for buck to be harvested from this experience, and I think too that this leads in nicely to the next question, which I'm going to bring up because I'm going to bring this question up here. And the question is, have any teachers of Barden provided a significant impact or breakthrough? Now, I'm referring to maybe modern translators of the material, much like ourselves. We're talking about this material, and maybe, like I said, translating it for a modern audience. And for me, one of the most important teachers is I found Franz Barden through this teacher, and that was Mark Rasmus. And that man has been extraordinarily impactful because he's helped me, because I didn't start with Barden. I started with Mark, and then he introduced me. He gave me some insight, which I'm somewhat yet to verify for myself, as to the journey of the spirit, which I've got for a question a bit later. But Mark mentioned that, one of the reasons why many seek to break the wheel of samsara is so they can come back down. Oh, sorry, hang on. No, he's talking about bodhisattva, I should say. They come back down because you can't get access to akasha unless you have an earth root or if you've got a physical grounding. And the akasha is where unpredictability lives. Whereas just coming back here, it's a pretty reliable rule set for experience. But I'm wandering off on a tangent here. What I really would love to hear from you both, and I'm just trying to think that we'll go with Clint on this one if we could, Clint. Sorry, brother, I'm putting in the firing line first up for these questions. I hope you don't mind. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this question. Have any teachers of Barden provided a significant impact or breakthrough?
Well, I'm kind of embarrassed to say not really, other than the ones I've collaborated with since I kind of first started coming publicly. But I will say I came to, it's probably important to add, I went through Barden essentially by myself. I wished I'd had a teacher. But I went through Barden through myself. However, I had a very big head start, I feel, because my background came in Christian mysticism, and having spent 6 months in a silent monastery, considering becoming a Christian monk. And so it's very, very much coming from that background. And, what always strikes me about Barden is on step 1, he puts the exercise vacancy of mind. And some spiritual teachers make that their entire thing. That is their entire thing, getting into that oneness, that stillness, that empty space, that Zen emptiness, the sunyata, the void, whatever words you want to choose for it, the here now, the eternal here now. I like to call it the great here now. And what led me to that was the book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. That was a very influential book and made my whole Barden practice so much easier, because just through doing the exercises in The Power of Now, I was able to feel, not just know intellectually, but feel the different dimensions of spirit, soul, and body kind of fit together like a fine silk glove that Barden talks about. So when I began to read through Barden's work, a lot of it resonated with where I'd been already. And all of that gave me a kind of jump start, if you will, into Barden's work. But looking back on going through Barden, I do wish I had a teacher. That doesn't mean that I didn't watch some YouTube videos, but I do wish I had had that, but again, coming out of mystic Christianity gave me, in reading The Power of Now, seemed to be what really kind of gave me a huge leap forward in the beginning.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes, and so I was thinking about this before to expand this question a little bit outside of maybe just Barden-specific teachers, because there are many complementary sort of teachings, I think, that assist with understanding. And for myself, although I found Barden through Mark Rasmus, I've certainly gone back to the Barden core and exploring it from there and seeing the peripherals and how they contribute, the Ron Clark, Martin Fox, these types too. So many wonderful contributors. So now, thank you for that, Clint. I'm just making sure I get this down here. Philip, have you got a commentary for this?
Yeah, basically Ray de Sol.
Oh, of course, yes.
Provided me with some absolutely vital input a couple of years ago. Before then, I had really just carried on plugging away with Barden stuff, but I realized I'd got stuck, and partly through his course and partly through him answering some questions I had on Messenger, he was able to clear up a number of difficulties and confusions that I was facing. And I'm sure he does. He probably does this all the time and for lots of people, but it was a big deal. Certainly, really helped, huge. So that would be the teacher that sorted something out for me very, very effectively. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. And Victoria.
I have a list. So first, my first spiritual teacher and his wife, it's them who introduced me to Franz Barden just before I turned 18 years old. In retrospect, I wish I stayed serious from that point rather than not getting serious until over 10 years later. But that's to start. And when I started getting serious after exploring other systems and kind of dancing around in the corral of the first steps of Barden, it's like, okay, I need to buckle down. I signed up for Ray Del Sol's course. That will give me, like, I'm signing up here. I'm doing this. I'm showing up. So I need to make sure that I'm doing my part. Also, I see that Martin Fox is watching. I wonder if you knew ahead of time I was going to be mentioning you, because when I saw this question, I wanted to mention you too, because you've been incredibly supportive, and I feel like you are one of the few people who at least have openly seen a deeper part of me, and I really appreciate that, being able to see someone and be seen on a deeper level. I think people always respect and appreciate that. Also, Andre Conscientia. He's been a good friend. Him and I have a publishing company, Starlore Publishing. I have not mentioned that on any of my promo codes, promo sheets, but we also got a new book submission that we just finished the first editing, and I'm going to be preparing that for publication. It is more of a kind of Gnostic fiction story about someone who finds himself in the afterlife. It's very fascinating. And then also Bob Smith, who couldn't make it today. But when I got towards the later steps of IIH, I had two different magicians, including Bob Smith, suggest to start doing the mother letters. And I was at step 7 at the time, and Barden typically says not until step 8 should you do PME or KTQ. But as I heard this from two different sources who don't have contact, I'm like, okay, this is a sign for from the universe for me to just kind of jump in. So through 60 Skills curriculum, I've been able to do an initial run through of the single letters and some formula work on KTQ. Of course, I just have a based on how much practice I do, kind of a primer touch on that. I believe with Kabbalah work, that can be an entire lifetime of just refining the quality and quantity of that. Also through 60 Skills, it started first with the Mental Laundering course. And Bob Smith has a book he hasn't published yet about how to channel different planetary energies. So that's what started me into my own path working through the planets without evocation. So I would channel the different planetary energies into my crown chakras, and then I would travel to the different spheres and explore them without contacting a spirit, but just kind of as an individual, finding my path through those. And then later I started doing invocation through practice of magical evocation. But I'm huge on the community, and I love showing up for all of this because I know it's because of teachers who make a difference in people's lives. Even the people I didn't mention, by reading the different blogs, the different comments, and the groups, just to give me extra context and feedback to see, well, okay, this person has this approach and they're successful, or this person says something that's interesting. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily adopt that, but that's neat, So by having kind of a crowdsource of Bardanists, whether you're interacting with them one-on-one or indirectly just by reading or watching their material, you start to kind of expand your inner library of reference points for the different exercises or the different things to consider. And, with Barden system, becoming a magician, people can take it in a lot of different directions, or you can really focus on becoming a true image of, the God-man, the divine, the microcosm. I mean, Franz Barden's has that system's possibility with everything that's outlined, or you can become a specialist as well. And I love to see the specialists within the community. Another person I'd like to mention is Christoph Majek. He has not taught me, but he's a very respectable magician as well, who puts out some great content.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, great list there. And yeah, I'm still exploring this community, and there's so many treasures sort of being revealed to me as I move through and discover people. And you really nailed it when you said, the specialists, because they take a niche, like a nuance, and are just, exploring it and providing so much rich discovery content detail within it. And for me, that's quite exciting. I'm doing sort of that myself with my Reiki as well. So thank you, everyone. And there's actually a quote here from Mr. Martin Fox that I put up briefly, and he makes a pertinent comment here. And I just want to bring this up for a quick sort of throw around the table. Ironic, don't you think? So many people here dreaming of heaven and the spirits, and on the subtle level determined to reincarnate in order to learn and evolve. So while we're here, we're thinking about being up there, but when we're up there, we're thinking about, how we sort of like take value in that from here, because it's there. And I find that's interesting because, there's a large online community talking about what's going on up here, but there's so much, like, we need to clean up our own backyard first, essentially. And I remember somebody mentioning this conversation of, we're learning these higher skills, so essentially we can leverage them to improve the sand pit so that everyone can have a richer learning experience here. And, it's duality, and so there's pleasant things and less pleasant things and that. But would anyone from the panel like to comment on this this mention from Martin?
Well, I think Clint perhaps addressed somewhat when he said that this is a purgatory location. So, and as well, actually, as Victoria said, we're here so that we can do more. And yes, you do remember at some level, sometimes completely remember, but sometimes just somehow at the back of your psyche, you remember how much nicer it was before you turned up. And that might perhaps be one of the drivers for regarding these subtle levels when we're here. And if Martin is suggesting that we should perhaps address the here and now more, if I would agree, because that's why we're here. You know, we have to do something. We're here for a reason, type thing. But that is it's important not to get too spacious about that kind of stuff. What I would suggest is that it's a question of alignment. So to use the analogy of the solstices, when the sun, the invisible sun, and the earth are all in a straight line alignment, perhaps we are looking to align ourselves in the physical and the subtle realms rather than express a preference. Perhaps it might be that we bring them through in a clearer, harmonious way, and have them in alignment, and that might be perhaps a possible solution to the conundrum.
Wonderful, thank you. Victoria or Clint?
Well, I'll just say something real quick. I need to sign off soon, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. I can sign you out straight after this if you like, if that helps, Clint.
Oh, okay. And I'll still be on the recorded version.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just making sure. My first time, I'm a newbie, checking things out. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, no, I do think it's ironic. Like the grass is always greener. But yeah, no, I kind of chalk it up to just kind of seeing good things in the afterlife and the world to come, and just kind of letting it go at that, and, focusing on being here now, on the earth plane. And, a lot of people do get curious about these other dimensions and other worlds. And, I suppose there is a certain comfort having a strong faith that you're going to be in a good place when you pass on and cross over. But at the same time, yeah, I totally agree with what you said, Phil, about cleaning up our own backyards. There's just plenty to clean up in the backyard, So there's plenty going on here. There's no reason to necessarily wish we were already there, So, but it is ironic, thinking about being in the other place. I mean, and I think it's a common thing to do with anything, really. The phrase, the idiom is the grass is always greener. You always think like, I went to a monastery. I could have become a monk. And, sometimes I would think, oh, well, I'm not a monk. What if I had been a monk? Or sometimes I would think like, I made this decision. What if I had made this decision? It's just like, there's always that kind of oscillation between two poles. But, I do think it helps to just kind of be here now.
Thank you. Yeah, that's and I have to say, look, I could go to a monastery too, but I kind of feel like I'm copping out a little bit in the sense that I'm a teacher. I'm bound to being a teacher, and I can do so much. I've already done lots of community service work, and I'm like going, I can do so much while I'm here. And so part of what I'm doing, for example, is these podcasts and things like that until I sort of find another place, and also finding a way to use higher skills in a sense that can serve people in physical proximity and also to the global family as well. But Clint, thank you so much for your time today, sir. It's been so great to have you here. I'm so grateful. Thank you. You bring so much wonderful commentary and heart to the conversation. And all things going well, we will see you again soon. And are there any? I'm just going to bring up your wonderful card here so people know how to get in touch with you. So would you like to do a quick plug for yourself before you head off?
Sure. I did a lot of self-promotion at the beginning. There's always a bit of a twinge, but I and I'm looking forward to being a part of the International Friends Barden Day tomorrow in the immediate. That is the big thing coming next. So that's going to be here. But yeah, I offer individual coaching through the steps of initiation into hermetics, which can take it's all determined by the client. Whatever the client needs, we can go. If a lot of times people see me and for the first 2 sessions, they just have this flood of questions and I answer all their questions. Some people need to just process everything and get good feedback and empathy, you know. Everybody's in their own place in the steps. So I work with people at all points in this journey. And then I do group transmissions of Akashic energy, which wasn't a skill I knew I had until I started doing it. And I had this one client, you know, really kept asking me for a transmission over and over. And I was like, is a transmission what like Buddhists give the Dharma to a student to take it over? I mean, in a lineage, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, you know, and I kind of just ended up somehow intuitively coming to my own sense that I could just basically rest in the Akasha and just transmit silently Akashic energy to him. So we tried it and he said that was a powerful transmission that blew me away. And I thought, wow, even over Zoom, it worked. Maybe I could do groups of this. And so I started doing groups where I would do this. And it was a skill I had that I never really knew I had. And I was actually kind of surprised, like, wow, this works, you know, like people are feeling the effects. So it was very, very kind of, I don't know, assuring to me and comforting that it was helping people. So I started doing those. And at the end of those sessions, we have discussion amongst Barden practitioners, kind of like we're doing here now, which is good stuff. And then I've got courses on Perseus Arcane Academy and a course on steps 4, 5, and 6, and a course on emotional release. And neither of those are available anywhere else. And of course, you can just email me. You've got any questions, you are interested in coaching or transmissions, simplest way is to just go and email me at thegraveyardcowboy@gmail.com. Or you can just go to my website, real easy to remember, quintsabom.com, and contact me through there. Either way works just fine, and we'll kind of take it from there and get you set up for whatever you're interested in. And yeah, just so happy to be a part. And I'm really glad there's a Barden community. I'm glad, you know, it's just like I kind of feel like now that I've been around a little longer, I'm kind of becoming a part of this larger community that really, really kind of feeds my soul. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Oh, well, wonderful, Clint. And yeah, so everyone, I'll have the details in the YouTube's description below. And so you can get in touch with Clint. And please make sure you check out his YouTube. And yeah, sir, thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. Take care.
See you then. Wonderful. Well, I wanted to get because I sort of thing there. I wanted to get Victoria's comments on the quote or the mention here from Martin. If you had any comments you wanted to share on this one, Victoria.
Oh, how many onion layers do I want to go down on this? I mean, as I mentioned, you know, previously, waking up and realizing you have a connection to a higher sphere that's much more pleasant and full of unconditional love and your soul family and all that. And then being separate from that, it's a very tangible feeling. But then I've struggled a lot with that, and also like depression and even being suicidal throughout my life. Not suicidal now or depressed, but I've had a lot of dark moments of my life. But thankfully, through grace, I've been able to go into states that show me, oh, when you die and you're outside of time, you look back on your life and it's just a dream. So it really helped me shift my perspective that while I'm here, and then this is kind of cheesy, but it's like the role-playing game. I don't like that allegory as much, but it's like I I am in a dream. I am in a waking dream. I am in a body that is going to be subject to its organic, age and death at some point. My spirit is plugged in here. This physical realm, this time, these experience, whether it's preordained or experiences I make for myself. And to recognize that all of this is serving a higher purpose, whether it's for your own higher self, for providence, for the people around your life, for the karma you're working through. So it's really helpful to give yourself some bearings, as there's so many memes online of people saying like they read their soul contract and they say F this, or this is going to be my last life. It's kind of become a funny, catchy thing of people like being like, no, I don't want to do this. Why am I here? Or the memes about like you're God's toughest soldier. So you're sent down here to earth. But also, I mean, on that point, we are kind of soldiers in a way. We're down here to sharpen our swords, as Jesus said, I didn't come to bring peace but a sword, and to really just cultivate yourself. This is your incarnation, is your alchemical furnace where you can transmute your base metals and just work on things. And even, and not only for like the outcome, but also acknowledge that this is going to have a positive outcome. You're an eternal being, and things you do now are going to position yourself better post-incarnation so you can continue doing whatever work you're doing. So it's also, there's immediate gratification, but also look at the delayed gratification, and not from a selfish perspective, but also like I am part of the human conscious evolution. And as Barton says, every person can reach perfection. So if you are attuned to this kind of inner work in this lifetime, like focus on how am I progressing in this? What do I need to do? But also find balance, not be too hard on yourself. Decide how much you can bite off and chew in this life, what you want to bite off and chew in this life, but also recognize that you don't have to compare and be like, oh, these people are mages who can create fire in the middle of nowhere, and I can't do that. Your path is your path. You will get to your destination when you get to your destination. Doesn't matter if it's this life or another life. Just stay on track, follow your inner conscience, your inner guidance, and do the work.
Wonderful. Philip.
There's just one phrase that sprang to mind, and possibly from what Victoria was saying. It's from Liberal Vel Legis. I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union, which I think perhaps, without saying any more, perhaps helps move that along. Thank you, by the way, Victoria.
No, I love that. Makes me think of, like the Sufi union with the beloved, or in Christian mystic Christianity, the becoming the bride of the bridegroom, that union also with the lower and higher self. I think that's alchemical process too, is it?
Can be.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh man, I just want to say thank you to the audience too. If you've got any questions, please drop them into the chat. And I haven't seen anything on the Discord yet, but as you can see, we're having a wonderful conversation here. So please join us. Bring your questions forward. And I wanted to say too, just on the quote there, comment from Martin, is that I think that from what I've seen exploring the because there's a large community that falls obviously far outside of just say specific Barton, there's many different communities. If we just look at the spiritual community at large, there is a desire for I think a kind of escapism and maybe like, as I think Bob mentioned it once, astral tourism, where check this out, and it's like you have an initial encounter with these things and it changes you. There is an ongoing, I think, nutritional aspect to it, but it's also like going, what's that term? I think it's spiritual bypassing or something like this, where you're kind of like, you know, your head's in the clouds, but your feet's not on the ground sort of thing. And,
Fairy
you know,
charmed.
sorry?
Fairy charmed.
Right, perfect. Okay, that's it. And so, you know, I think what I really love about, say, the Hermetic, the Initiation Hermetics books is it's like, here's the exercises, do them. They're designed to essentially, you can watch your life improve as you move through them. And as you know, I've just found that there's a natural want for me to be better and to improve myself as I move through them, because I discover these new capacities. And I can find I can be of greater service in that. And the experiences that I have that are not so much physical, I find them very encouraging. But I've moved on from this kind of kid in a candy store, toy shop exploration, initial sort of like, wow, this is amazing. It's like, okay, I've kind of like found an area of focus, and I see how these teachings and practices and experience help feed into that, rather than just be kind of like a wandering mystic, just having incredible stories to share, which is great. But I found a real applicable functionality of these things. And but yeah, thank you, Martin. That's a very valuable statement there. Okay. Now I've got to say, I've still got lots of questions, and the audience is pumping them through. We're 10:15. Are either of you still cool to stick around for a little bit longer?
Yeah, it's all good.
Cool. All right, we'll keep going here. Okay, now this one here, it's a little bit outside, but we'll just bring it up anyway. Anyone familiar with Immanuel Kant? Any parallels you see with Barden and Kant? Well, I'm not totally familiar with Kant, so I probably won't comment on this, but I'll open this up to the panel anyway.
Is Kant the guy that did the elephants in the you had these 4 sages with blindfolds, and they went into the room with the elephant, and one felt the tail and said it was a snake, and the other felt the leg and said it was a tree trunk. And
I know the story.
Is that Kant?
I'm not sure. Let's just see.
Is he the guy that you approach the truth but you never reach it? Kind of guy. Is that him?
I'm just having a look now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's his story. I'm familiar with Immanuel Kant's name, but I'm not versed in his philosophical material. So
yeah.
It's either Hume or Kant. We can never completely know the truth, but we are forever approaching it. And this is why our observation of truth varies between people. I forget if that's Kant or another guy.
A quick synopsis of Kant is he believes that reason is the source of morality, and that aesthetics arise from a faculty of disinterested judgment.
Yeah.
He hoped that perpetual peace could be secured through an international freedom, so some political involvement as well.
Sorry, in that case, I must have been thinking of someone else. Can't help you, sorry.
Can't help with Kant? No, me neither, sorry.
Can't help with Kant. Great question. I'm sorry I'm not versed.
Okay, well, I've got another one here, and we've got an Enochian question in it. Just so happens we have a chap that knows a couple of things about Enochian, so let's have a look here. From Satsen is asking, I wanted to ask about Enochian spirits. Are they angels or something else? I know the system is notorious for producing results, even for beginners.
Yes, it is. The Enochian system is primarily to do with angels. You have to specifically make an effort and have a better of understanding of the system before you get into, if you wanted to, the cacodemons. It's the angels that you will look at in the squares, the watchtowers. The thing with Enochian is that you speak it, stuff happens. And that is why you need the angelic input, so that it's a nice, clean and harmonious expression of energy. I'm actually preparing a course for entering the Enochian Aethers with Perseus at the moment. The Aethers are the last pieces of information that Dee and Kelly received when they were speaking with God's angels. Yes, it is notorious for producing results even for beginners. There's no doubt about that. The problem there is that the results are not predicted. If, for example, one day Dee and Kelly were working together on Enochian, and Kelly was bitten quite badly by something invisible. And Dee even wrote a little diagram of this, like little, as if some beak had bitten into him, and you could see the wound. Now, I've never experienced anything like that, thankfully. The crux of Enochian is to always keep your mind on the divine, God, and seek to be communing with the angels, and this will provide a tendency for the automatic results to be more pleasant than chaotic or unpleasant. Do you mind if I speak a little bit about the aethers and just focus on that?
Please, by all means.
Well, the aethers, which I from about 93 or 94, I'd have to check my diary, up until 2001, I explored all 30 of the Enochian aethers. Now, they do have a bit of a reputation. You can go psychiatrically mad from doing them. And although I've never come across this, I mentioned it before we started the live stream, I've never met any, never heard any examples of people actually dying due to exploring the aethers. It is physically possible, well, it is theoretically possible that one could, just based on the mechanics of it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm looking to do this through Perseus Academy, because I know there's a lot of interest. There was a lot of interest way back when with other folks that were doing it, and a lot of them did come a cropper. They didn't, not too bad, but they had some unwelcome experiences. The thing with Enochian is it is a language in its own right. It does produce physical results. The book I've written that will be published by Falcon Press, Enochian Hermetics, does offer a clear explanation as to why that is so, why Enochian has this automatic evocatory effect. But I could spend like 45 minutes rabbiting away here, and it wouldn't be fair on you guys if I went too far into it. But basically, if we'd say, just give an example, let's say we want to explore the tarot trumps. I don't know if either of you guys have done that, but I've met a lot of people, including myself, and you can either use the Kabbalistic temples, or you can just use the tarot trump itself, and you've got various symbols and call signs that are attributed to the tarot trump to keep it focused. So it's not a set path working that's scripted. You let the images rise up as you travel on the inner. And if things get a bit hairy, you use these call signs or symbols and things kind of mellow out. And the idea there is that these call signs and symbols are to do with angels and guardians, and they'll moderate what's going on so that you can cope at that time. And obviously, as you develop, you can do more and more, and you progress through the trumps. Now, the thing with Enochian is it's completely different, specifically the aethers. If you can't handle an aether, it won't mellow itself, it will break you. And this is where these, so it's not bad. It's just, you don't go there if you shouldn't be there type deal. And that's the problem. And it's the problem that I've seen other people have. You have to prepare very carefully before you enter an aether, and you will always get a chance to pull back and reconfigure and then try again at a later date. It is when people foolishly and through arrogance press on, when they haven't prepared properly for the experiences that aether will present you with, that things start to go wrong. And they again, with the physical results side of it, effect of bleed through from the aethers. I mean, people who've done inner plane work, you will have noticed how you do some inner plane work. I used the example of the tarot trumps. You explore a tarot trump, and there's an effect in the world. You can sort of sense the vibe of it. You know, sometimes it can take a few weeks before it occurs, but you can feel it. And it's the same, of course, with Bard and sphere magic, but even more pronounced. You can feel the sphere energy. And I think Victoria was talking about actually specifically channeling it through as well. So there's lots of ways that you can bring about bleed through, sometimes without even visiting those places. With Enochian, the bleed through is very pronounced, just as the language itself is automatically evocatory. So is the bleed through from the subtle planes into the physical. Very pronounced and very in your face, and indeed in everyone else's face around you. You can lose a lot of friends through Enochian if you're not careful. You have to make sure it's partitioned so that it doesn't impact other people too much as well. The angels, the force of them is quite noticeable. So there is, I mean, you know, there was that drama show here in the UK about a violinist, and you know, she had a bad experience with some Enochian angels somewhere in North Wales. Well, that's because she didn't know what she was doing. I don't want to go too far into this particular drama. It was a very good drama. They used the sigillum diameth as the not the sigillum diameth, the hieroglyphic monad as the core symbol in that particular piece. So yes, if we look at Enochian generically, it will produce results straight away in some instances. For example, I'll finish up soon, so you know, don't want to take over too much. For example, when I first started doing some magic, I looked at the method in a book, a really good beginner's book I found called Techniques of High Magic by Francis King and Stephen Skinner. And there was this method to magically prepare a set of geomantic implements for geomantic divination. And it's got some Enochian stuff in it. So I didn't want to just read it out and do it. I wanted to memorize it. So what I did is I did a dress rehearsal without any visualizations. And I just said the Enochian bits. And there was all sorts of problems. I was in a shared house at the time. We had a little bit of poltergeist activity starting to build up. People started to find fault with each other very readily. And I had to do these, I spent about 6 weeks just doing these kind of calming, purifying ritual practices. And then when things calmed down, I confessed to my housemates that it was all my fault. But I didn't tell them until after I'd calmed it all down. You know, Enochian can. I think Jason Louv wrote something called Empire of Angels, and I think he made a really cool joke one time on a podcast where he said, you know, obviously if we look at Harry Potter, you know, they just say some Latin and stuff happens. It's not exactly like that with Enochian, but it's as near to that kind of ridiculous situation as you can find. Just saying Enochian can cause effects. So the question, therefore, is: do you want to do some spiritual training so that you are able, via theurgy, to ensure these effects are in harmony with you and your environment? Or would you prefer to simply say Enochian a lot of times till eventually something happens, but you won't know what it is and it might not be very nice? That would be, yeah, Enochian is one of those things. It's just automatically powerful, even for beginners. Yeah. Absolutely. I've thought an awful lot about that. I could talk for hours, but perhaps we'll leave it there.
You're on mute.
Thank you so much. Your depth of knowledge on the topic is exceptional, brother. I'm so grateful for that. And I'll just open up, Victoria. Have you got anything you'd like to comment on this?
I am not versed in Enochian spirits. Sometimes contact with angels, but I don't have anything tangible to share.
Thank you so much. Now, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to the wonderful digital creative skills of violetflamestudios.co.nz. They've created my new Bardin logo up the top right of the screen here and the lovely backdrop as well. I know this man personally. His skills are exceptional. If you would like to know more about Violet Flame Studios, you can go to their website. And hopefully I'll be able to talk him into making a nice square little thing that I can share to say thank you for his great works. Now, I've got another question here, this time from the Discord. Okay, so from Power Law in the Discord. For a person coming from a lay life interested in magic, how many years before you think they can comfortably operate magic to boost their life? This is a pretty big question, this one. If I was going to put in my 2 cents on this, I would say there's a natural unfoldment when you show an interest. I had glimpses. I had a try before you buy kind of thing where I was like given samples of experiences. Here's an interesting thing. Now it's up to you to go and look and find out and learn about it and to do your due diligence and discover and explore these greater mysteries. And there are capability development pathways. And I think it's sort of like I kind of got dropped some seeds, but it was up to me to go and expand. I wasn't given like a track on rails. It was more like there was like, we know you have an inquisitive mind, Phil. Here's some interesting things. Please nourish this interest and also fatten out your understanding. So, there are some things that give pretty immediate results for better or for worse. And so it's good to have a little bit of an understanding, I think, about various frameworks, perhaps before entering into things. But as far as how many years, well, I mean, I'm doing a path of service as an energy healer. And I have to say, I just do daily practices. Things happen. I'm not in a hurry. I'd like to be able to be of the greatest service possible to the people I work with and anyone that asks me questions. I'd like to be able to give the best possible answers I can. That I love sharing information and finding new ways of sharing information. So, I mean, things just reveal themselves over time. And so I'm hoping that will offer some usefulness for in regards to your question. So I'll leave this one to Victoria now, since Philip had a big chat before.
So first I would want to look at the elements of the context of what you mean by boosting your life. And then also depending on your expectations and intentions. So hypothetically, we can say from day one, when you start practicing, your life will be boosted because you're learning how to be disciplined. You're learning how to focus. You're working towards a goal. And if the expectation or the desire of magic, is to say, secure a higher income or to buy a house or to get married or to have kids or to be one of the fire-wielding wizards, magicians, that is going to create a different trajectory for you. So you can look at micro steps and then also macro steps, but also kind of get a pulse and gauge on what are your expectations and intentions, but also don't miss the forest for the trees. Notice that even because you are practicing magic as a lay person, it starts to activate something. Every day that you are practicing, there's energy that starts spinning and turning. And the more you practice, the more momentum that begins to build. And I know it sounds so cliche, but I mean, just in the first week, you are boosting your life. A lot of it is also about recalibration. So if you focus on the internal aspect of Franz Barden's system, as you improve yourself internally, that's going to improve your external life as well. Like if you learn how to be calm in difficult situations, that could be a soul mirror trait that you work on, but the ability to have that. So there's really all these micro elements that you could really cultivate that give a better landscape for you to operate in during your incarnation, in your astral sphere, your mental sphere. So also kind of look at and appreciate what are those little things too. Like when I can learn how to be laser focused, or I can learn to let go of things, or even just being able to generate energy. So that's kind of my answer. I feel like there is a stronger upward heel if you're looking for kind of the big shifts. I've had from my own magic, like, okay, I'm practicing magic, and sometimes life will, as a byproduct, magically rearrange, which is great. But there's times where I'm like, why is it not magically rearranging? Because I'm practicing. And it's like, well, you shouldn't be expecting that just because you're doing that too. But you could also focus depending on your skill set and your development, you could focus on specific things to cultivate more. So it's part of kind of identifying your goals too, to boost your life. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a great thing to look at, kind of like financial stability, relationships, self-actualization, careers. If you're more interested in powers from magical practice, that's going to take a lot of repetition, but also internal calibration. Because too much input can end up frying your system. So you have to kind of have a solid foundation to do that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. And I really like what you said, about the, I say this to my clients too, little adjustments here and there, lifting up little points on the net and like little things here and there can make a big difference, and the results could be considered magical somewhat, even changing your diet and attending to relationships and things in your life. All these little things help. And you're right. I think, there's certainly ways of developing some pretty exceptional, phenomenal experiences. But, those things generally down the track, although it sounds like if you go down the Enochian track, that might be another story. But I think, like for the Barden stuff, especially, I think just start start building up the vehicle and things will start happening. That's just my suggestion anyway. But not that there was a suggestion being asked for. But Philip, I'm sure I'd love to pass this to you, please.
Well, I mean, obviously, we don't know exactly where power laws coming from, but what can be said is, if you try basic results magic and you get an output, and if you do it properly, you will. The question then becomes, what then? What now? Yeah. Which is pretty much what you guys were kind of talking about. Well, the what now is, you can force things that maybe shouldn't be forced, or you can help things that should be helped much more than before, because you've just suddenly realized you can do this thing, for example, the chaos magic sigil technique, or the basic hoodoo candle magic in America. These things work. They do. They work in various degrees. They work depending on how disciplined you are with them. The problem is they are without understanding, and that is what I think Barden brings us. Because as Barden points out, when you do these exercises, your capabilities do increase, obviously through the training, but there's a natural, I think he uses the word ennobling of the spirit, something like that, a refining. And what happens is, he also talks about the intuitive facility. So you begin to realize when it is appropriate, ethical and harmonious for the common good as well as your own, and sometimes not even for your own, to exert a magical effect, and you become less egotistical and less centered on personal wants and needs because of this training. And this leads you into a developmental progression. And I have to say, in the past, when I've been to conferences in the UK, stuff like that, you do come across even speakers, never mind just people in the audience, who seem, in my opinion, to be just focused on results. So they're forever, it's almost, that they're so locked into pursuing results that then they get another result, but then there's a problem, so now they've got to do something else, and now there's another problem, so now they've got to go and do this thing, and they get sort of trapped into this. Whilst on the one hand they are able to express power subtly as well as in their mundane life, and they can be quite formidable people. They, in my opinion, were not everyone I met. They were completely locked into achieving results and in the end the results became for their own sake almost. So it was almost like a nihilism, almost like a magical nihilism began to develop. And one of the things in the magical systems I've always been interested in, and especially in Barden, you can see that Barden stuff is incredibly effective, but it's also refines the person, so that they can have they can affect positive change in general terms. Like Barden says, the ennobling of the spirit, and that's certainly true when, for example, you get to the point of, for example, the electromagnetic fluids in Barden's training. As he points out, if you've got any unresolved passions, the use of the fluids can really amplify them very badly, and you can become quite out of balance, and it can become very difficult for you. So you need to have achieved all that balance. And of course, if you've managed to resolve all these passions, you're not so interested in results. It's almost like a paradox. You perhaps at the beginning, and this was certainly the case with me, I was interested in magic can get me results. This is incredible. But then as I got further into it, I realized that I didn't really care about those results, and there was something much more important involved in this. And this is particularly shown in Barden's material, but it's not just in Barden's material. Obviously, that it is in lots of other stuff as well. So when Power Law says how long before they can comfortably operate magic to boost their life, a couple weeks. The question is that a good idea? You may find that once you've done it, all of a sudden your world changes, and you start to think, is there a purpose to this? Maybe I should forget about that and look at the as Barden puts it, the training and the ennobling of the character, which is what you were both emphasizing. And it is, that's what I think you were both emphasizing anyway. And that is the real point. It is this progression, this evolution, and that is the crux. But at the same time, I understand, and I'm putting words in Power Law's mouth, I understand the wish to see if magic can do stuff. It was certainly something that I was interested in and did. And when I found it did work, I was like, oh no, maybe I should find a greater meaning for all this that I've just suddenly realized can happen. You know what I mean? But perhaps from Power Law's position, if they've already done it, they know that, and they're just having a tongue-in-cheek question with us. But if they don't, if and when they do something and stuff happens, their world, as Archimedes is quoted by Barden, their world will shift on its hinges, and they will suddenly see things differently. That would be my suggestion. There's a long answer. Sorry.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you, guys. I think too that, as you work through a progression of expanding your perceptual awareness and capability of basically gathering not just more data, but richer resolutions of data. And I have a sort of a rough kind of metaphor for this. Basically, you have a sphere of awareness around you that extends out 3 meters this way, 3 meters that way. That's what you can perceive. And then as you do these practices, your ability to see more detail increases and new things emerge as the bubble expands, quantitatively. It also richer information comes forth, and that changes and modifies your worldview and how you choose to walk. These teachings change you because you are sharpening your things, and you become acutely aware of, like, if you're being if you've got a bad trait, maybe you're a cheeky person or something like that, and you don't really realize how that's affecting people. You may suddenly become much more self-aware. And I thought that joke was funny. I mean, I don't actually want to be. I don't want a person to feel bad because I think I'm having a laugh here or something like this, And I've just become more acutely aware, and it's something I continue to do. But yeah, I mean, having if you start just doing that first set of mental exercises in step 1, that will, new doors will open just from doing that, and that will boost your life in and of itself, in my view. So wonderful. That's a great combo there. Okay, now we're 11:15, and are you guys cool to do another couple of quick questions?
Yeah, it's actually 11:45, but yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I'm down here at the bottom of the world.
It's British summertime.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you for that. All right, well, here we go. This is one I've been wanting to bring up for a while, and when I put it into the group chat, you two were straight onto it, so I'm going to rock this one up. Okay, so I'm going to pass this one to Victoria first. Esoteric movie, and I've also put in documentary recommendations here. So one of the cool things about being on the Earth plane, I think, is that there's lots of really interesting art forms available to us that have got esoteric symbolism and hero's journey and tarot and Kabbalistic sort of insertions and frameworks for building stories upon. And
I just go and get the DVD. I am listening. I'll be right back. Sorry, Victoria. I just want to get the DVD I'm going to mention.
Yeah.
No worries. I'm sure that we've all come across things, and maybe we've watched things later in life with new eyes and gone, wait a minute, he's totally talking about Kabbalah in this mainstream movie, and it becomes quite overt to us. But yeah, Victoria, please. And I'll get ready to put some titles up on the screen too. So.
Okay, first I'll start with Holy Mountain by Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Holy Mountain?
Yeah, Holy Mountain.
By Jodorowsky, yep.
I got to see a live screening of this with the director Alejandro Jodorowsky at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood several years ago. But this film is full of tarot symbology, Kabbalah symbology, and also a lot of Gurdjieff or fourth way symbology. So it's full of esoteric symbolism. It's the Holy Mountain. And a lot of Jodorowsky's films do include kind of exoteric kind of symbols as well. Another film that I would want to suggest is Faust by the Czech director Jan Zwackmeier.
Yeah.
So if you want me to spell that, Philip, his first name's Jan.
I've got it.
It's a great film.
It's brilliant.
So, yeah. And how do you spell it?
So first name's Jan.
Yeah.
Last name is Svan.
Yep.
Kma.
Yep.
Jer.
Yep.
And that's Faust. You can watch it for free on YouTube with English translations. It's a lot of stop animation. I think maybe it was done in the 90s. I could be mistaken.
Who would know the devil drove a Skoda, eh?
Huh?
It's a brilliant film. Sorry, I'm interrupted. Please.
Oh, no. It's okay. It's okay. I lost my train of thought.
My apologies.
It's okay. I also like The Illusionist with Edward Norton because it reminds me of Vibrato, the novel, because Edward Norton is kind of being a stage magician as well. So it kind of reminds me of that time period when Barden was doing that in real life. I also love martial arts films, and just as a side note, because there's a lot about inner work, discipline, and kind of Eastern magic with energy and power. So that can be very inspiring. The Last Wave by Peter Waugh. That is based in Australia, and it's about a man who goes and travels to meet with Aboriginal people. I could probably list a few more, but I'll stop there so Philip can say so.
Yeah, no, wow, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you got to hang out at the Holy Mountain. That's pretty special. I mean, I haven't really done a deep dive into Jodorowsky's stuff, but I've certainly heard that there's a lot going on, and he had I can't remember what the name was, but he was also going to do a version of June, I believe, at some point as well.
Yeah,
now, wouldn't that be interesting? Move over, Mr. Lynch.
That got bogged down, and they all left to do the first Alien film. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
it got bogged down, even though Alien was good.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing is that like there's lots of things that may have come out but never did because other things happened, such as life. Apparently, The Prisoner was being filmed at the same time that 2001 was, and that's there's a whole other story I could talk about that. But anyway, I would love to hear what you've got to share on this, Mr. Philip Harris Smith.
Well, there are a huge number of excellent videos, but perhaps this one here, Hereditary, might be worth a look. Now, the same director has done another very good one called Midsummer.
Oh yes.
But this one is interesting. It is about what Barden would call sorcery rather than magic, and that's because people are how Barden describes sorcery. The sorcerer doesn't really have the correct bringing through of the divine, so they make a special stick on the full moon, and they say a certain thing in a certain way from a certain book that's got to be using hen's blood ink, and there's all these all these kind of intricate things that they do in place of bringing through the divine. That's Barden's view, and to a certain extent it's also mine, although I think to a certain it's not the whole story, but if you like, they're two artificial poles of thought. Now the thing with this particular story, it's about a Goetic spirit, Paimon, and how this spirit is literally preying on a family. Now I won't go into any further than that, but what you can see is the cultists. You the first time you see the film, you can see all the events that unfold, and I won't describe them. But then when you look at it again, you can see all the cultists doing their sorcery stuff all around the main protagonists. They sort of different ones are popping up. There may have been a commemorative photo with some of them in the beginning on a particular thing, and then by the end of the film, you can see that they've all been lurking around this family and doing all this kind of sorcerous activity. They interact in a certain way when the moon is in a certain phase. They say a certain thing at a certain time, and it's all to bring about this effect that they all wish to achieve at the expense of the family members. And it's an interesting contrast between the hermetics, the theurgy of, for example, Barden's training. I'm not saying Barden's the only person that shows this, but he's he's got it there as available for solo work for those that want to do it. And it shows, if you like, the other side of the coin, the people who aren't interested in that. They aren't interested in developing or evolving or learning about things. They just want loads of stuff. That's all they want. They want loads of stuff, and all this technical activity they engage in, an intricate, carefully planned, carefully coordinated, that's going on around this family to affect this family. So it is a horror story. It's not but it's if once you have gone through the story and all the stuff, and you go back through it, you can see all the stuff they do, and all the intricate ways they're inputting into the situation to try and manipulate it from what Bard would call a sorceress direction, rather than an enlightened and theurgic direction. And that's what makes it very interesting. It's how much work is put into it by a lot of people. It's a horror story, so they're not very nice people, but you just looking at it from a technical point of view, the effort this group of people and the way they must have planned it and coordinated it for generations. And I've said, if I say any more, I'll spoil the story, so I won't say any more than that. But it's very interesting, and if people find they like that one, they might find that the sequel to it, Midsummer, that's also it's not the same kind of thing. It's also very interesting, very interesting. And the thing I like about that one is the earth force, the expression of earth force. What the director does, for example, if a person's wearing a headdress of flowers, the flowers look at you and smile and things like that. Now the implication in the film is that they've taken some kind of herbal psychedelic, but then that's certainly possible. But I can certainly say that when in the past when I've been to meetings this time of year in the summer, and people have done a pagan earth-centered ritual or ceremony, I've seen that earth force without the drugs. I've never really been into drugs and magic. I know some people are. That's not my bag. That's the other interesting thing about Midsummer, is that the earth force, the flow of the earth force is hinted at in the film, aside from the story. So I'm very into this director. I mean, I haven't heard anything about him producing anything else at the moment, apart from those two. And I'm pretty put out that he hasn't got his nose back to the grindstone actually and produced something else. But they're quite good. I mean, there are loads of wonderful films out there, but those two spring to mind at the moment. This one in particular is, and if, like I say, if you like it, then the Midsummer one after it's also very, very good, but entirely different. There you go.
Well, wonderful, thank you. Well, I'm going to put one in because I saw this the other night, and that was Revolver by Guy Ritchie. And I do believe that a previous guest on the podcast, Mark Stavish, was actually had a conversation with Guy Ritchie. There's a picture of them hanging out on the website, talking about, because Guy Ritchie has, I don't know if he's still with Madonna, but there was conversations about Kabbalah in a very exoteric, overt way. And so there is a celebrity connection with Kabbalah, whichever form it takes. But this movie, Revolver with Guy Ritchie, it stars Jason Statham. Jason Statham plays a character called Jake Green. And essentially, it's a very... anyone watching this who is not aware of things would probably think this is just kind of some kind of weird, almost like a Tarantino back and forth all over the place thing. But on first watch, I was watching this and I'm like going, that looks like he's going up a, wait a minute, that looks, you start, if you have your tree of life handy and you watch this movie, you're seeing paths, you're seeing Sephiroth, you're seeing astrological, zodiacal symbolisms. It's quite interesting. And it's very, I think there's layers woven in that that have not revealed themselves to me. So it's an interesting movie, and it's worth checking out. I think it's a gangster flick by certainly, but it's not your usual gangster flick. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that in as my contribution to that. So Philip.
Yeah, I think I hadn't seen it, so I'll have to have a look now.
Yeah, it's definitely something there.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, go. Yep.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I'm glad someone mentioned Dark Song. I forgot to mention that because we've talked about it so much in the chats.
Yeah.
But also Inception. I think plenty of people have seen Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, but it's going into several states and dimensions, and that's fabulous too.
Some of those Guillermo del Toro movies, like Pan's Labyrinth, man, that was both parts mystical and enigmatic, and also quite disturbing at the same time. You know, The Shape of Water is another one that's quite interesting. I saw one the other night, The Mists of Avalon.
Yep.
Which is, and you know, you've got the Merlin with Sam Neill, and then you've got you know, these things. But The Mists of Avalon was a really curious telling of that story of Avalon and Camelot and that, and lots of things going on in there. But I also think that sometimes directors are possibly unconsciously putting certain rituals or themes in too. It's hard not to see them. I know that there is certainly an esoteric insertion into a lot of Hollywood stuff. It's becoming probably a little bit more overt now, even nowadays. But you know, I think it's fun to sit and watch a movie. I have to sometimes switch off and go, just enjoy the movie, bro. Don't try and pull it apart. So yeah, but anyway, guys, hey, we're at the top of the hour, and oh, hang on, one more. Somebody's put in As Above, So Below about the philosopher. Yep. So that's another flick. I mean, that's a pretty blatant one. So anyway, I would like to say, first of all, thank you so much to my two wonderful guests, including my third one who's left, Clint Sabom. A real pleasure to have Clint on as a first timer. I'm so grateful. Thank you to both of you for once again joining me here. And I'd like to give you both a chance to just give a little bit of plug about how people can find you. And I will put these details in the description below. So Philip, would you like to go first?
Well, most of the stuff that I'm going to do hasn't actually arrived yet. The book I've written, Enochian Hermetics, Falcon Press plans to publish. The course on the Enochian Aethers, there'll be 3 separate sections to that. I'm working on that right now. And although I've been to all of the Aethers, it was a considerable number of years ago. So I'm basically revisiting them. And then once I've done that, I can then offer them as blocks because it will be fresh in my mind, and I'll be able to provide the important input that people need to be able to navigate these subtle realms more effectively. So that's it's more of stuff to come rather than stuff that is. But I am certainly enjoying what I'm doing at the moment, and it will emerge on PerseusAcademy.com in due course and at Falcon Books Press.
Wonderful, thank you. I'll definitely put some links in for that. And just because Victoria made this beautiful graphic here, is there anything you're working on or you'd like to share before we leave today, Victoria?
I mostly post on YouTube. If you follow me on Facebook, I post there almost every day. If you know how to find me, if you know me there. Otherwise, check me out on YouTube, and I post less on TikTok and even more less on Instagram. And I haven't updated my blog in a while, but I will get on that at some point. But follow me at Psyche Alchemica on YouTube. I post there once every week or two. Or if I'm not doing a video with Bill, there's some kind of video activity happening about every week or two.
Wonderful. Yeah. And you know, your content is truly lovely. And I just wanted to share while we're here, and I don't know why I didn't think of this before, silly me, but I'm going to just post this up and see if I can do it No, it won't let me. So I'm going to do it like this instead. And go like this. And unfortunately, sorry everyone, I haven't got the image handy, but we have International Franz Barden Day celebration happening tomorrow here on the YouTube channel, and a massive thanks to the main organizer being Victoria Psyche Alchemica putting this together. So this is happening tomorrow. Sorry, could you give us a quick rundown on that, Victoria?
Yeah, so it's happening tomorrow. You can go to Phil Rice's YouTube channel, and it's pre-recorded. I mean, it's pre-scheduled to be a live interview. In the description, you can look at the time starts based on where you're located in the world. And International Franz Barden Day was first announced by Richard Chatsuli, I might be mispronouncing his last name, about 20 years ago, in a nod to the novel from Brado, where Franz Barden talks about the Brotherhood of Light and things like that. So in the past, Richard and a group of people have held an acknowledgement of International Franz Barden Day, and it typically includes a St. John's evocation. I've participated remotely in the past, and this will be the first time that it is live streamed, recorded, but also integrating more people from the global Franz Barden community. And in this ritual, also plan to bring a little piece of paper and write your name down. Phil, I'll send you a description update later, because part of the ritual is writing your name down to let things go of the past. If you might have a little kind of fireproof bowl, you can kind of burn that in. And I'm just really grateful for this, because for a while I've been wanting more of the Franz Barden community to come together, really acknowledge Franz Barden's system. There has been incredible growth in the past, I think, 10 and 20 years with the internet, and also because although Franz Barden's system is a solitary practice, there has been exponential growth and just the community that's being built, the friendships that's being built, the resources, different teachers available. There's so much information out there. So regardless where you are, you have information at your fingertips. You have people you can contact to help you. You can absolutely achieve this and do the system if it's what you want to do.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you. I think we're going to leave it right there. That was perfect. Thank you so much to everyone in the audience. Thank you for your wonderful questions. I had a whole bunch more questions lined up, but the audience brought forth the best stuff and some great movie recommendations there too. So thank you, everybody.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you to my
Victoria.
wonderful guests. And yeah, we'll see you guys all again very soon. Don't forget, I'm doing another live stream I'll
be recording that.
I'm doing this in about 8 hours time, I think, New Zealand. So and then I'm also helping Victoria out. So stick around. There's lots going on this weekend, guys, and we really appreciate you being involved in supporting us, and however it is, even if you're just watching. So please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And we'll see you again soon. Stay well.
Cheers.